Still unprepared. Hi guys, welcome to the Night Sky Imaging YouTube channel, and let's go outside and check out the sun. I am not sure if I'm going to do a time lapse or not. I'm promised some really good skies all day, but let's take a look at the sun and see what's up. Pay zero attention to the overexposed view of the sun over here on the left. I have stretched this image to give it some contrast, and I'm going to stretch it a little more because I'm more interested in imaging in this area, but this is not overexposed, as you can see from the histogram. It's just stretched to the point where I have clipped all the data over here on the left in a non-destructive sort of stretch. I don't know if that's the right way to say it, but at any rate, let's continue our trip around the sun. Wrong way again. I just had completed taking new flats for both the Solar Scout and this QUARK CHROMOSPHERE, and takes a while. I was using SharpCap to do it. Sunspots are everywhere. Now, this might not be a pretty good place to stop. Let's quickly overexpose this and see if there's anything on the rim. There's a few little things going, some spicules here and here, and a flare that looks like it's flamed out. So this is a possibility if I stay with, yeah, this is a possibility. That may over a period of say 3 hours show some action. It's a consideration. Let me get rid of the reticule. And let's go on further north. And let's run this up. When you know it, here's your action on the rim, and there isn't much going on the surface of the sun. Okay. Take note. I'm sure I'm going to use the Scout then. And let's oh, this, if we got anything going on the rim, now this could possibly work. Let's see. Fingers crossed. Oh yeah. All right, this is maybe my best bet. How can I do this? I'd want to go east. Nope. About there. Let's go west a little bit. Let's see if that region, yeah. So this would be, if I decide on a time lapse here, this would be my guide sunspot for putting my crosshairs. And that's a possibility. This is a possibility. As a matter of fact, I may change the region of interest. Let's go back again and see where the limb of the sun looks like. I think I'm going to give up on trying to have this in the frame. I'm sure cropping, I'm sure some of the cropping is going to make this awful close to the, if not out of the image. When I say a crop, when I do the Autostakkert and then do alignment, cropping's inherent in both of those programs, and you don't know quite how much it's going to crop. Sometimes more than necessary, and I redo often, but there will be some cropping. I don't care how good I stay on the guide sunspot, but this is a possibility. I may develop a region of interest of say 900 by, and let's dumb this down. Uh-oh, have a lost connection. Yep, reconnecting. We've had some solar flares that have really botched up. Oh, this is good. So this could very possibly be what I'm going to do today. And this may be it. We may have this thing is just not responding good because of Wi-Fi. Okay, now we want to go south a little bit. I'll take one final look and see. Oh yeah. All right, I think I have decided. But before I start this time lapse, I'll have to get my histogram right for this. I want to go change telescopes and use the 1600. And let's see, we need to, is it west and south? West, north, south, east. This is probably going to be, that's about centered there. Actually, I could center on that sunspot and zoom in and keep it right on there. Okay, let's see. Let's add some contrast. And let's go up here and check the rim of the sun. It's just not a lot going on. The rim. yet. That's not necessarily going to be the case in an hour or in 10 minutes. But right now, the most active is up here where I am toying. I'm toying with nonetheless, I want to take a picture of this, and let's move west a bit, and let's change this to one-time sidereal, and let's go south a little bit. And west. All right. Let's just call this Scout. And let's knock off, let me check my histogram down here too. That's fine. Let's knock off about 200 frames, a 200 frames SIR file. That's the plan. I think I'm going to go with this. Let's go ahead and set up a time lapse. I'm going to add to this morning time lapse, and let's do 200 frames. These are high res images, and let's do, what do we want to do? Let's try to get 300 in between now and 1:30. So it's 11, 12, 1:30. Let's have 25 seconds between images. I don't think I can get 300 in. I can get 200 in, 250. All right, we're off. I'm using that sunspot as a guide star in between images. I'm recentering, and hopefully that'll help Autostakkert and more especially ImPPG align this for a time lapse. I need to nudge it south as soon as this captures over. West. Come on, get back there. I had to move the mount yesterday after I finished imaging, and I moved it in right ascension, and I put it back, to the right markings, but it's not exact, so I'm running a PEC curve that isn't working. And so what I'm going to do is run another periodic error correction curve. Let me get this back so that I don't have to fight this drift in right ascension. North and declination is okay, because I am polar line within 1 arcsecond. All right, so I'm going to run a new PEC curve, and I'm going to use EQ mode to do that. I'm going to disable the PEC curve that I'm running, and I'm going to stop this one, and I'm going to hit record, because we're going to record a new one. We're going to record that to the mount, and let me first fix this, because I've already drifted way off. Alright, good, I got it back. Rotate back to, and so we're going to start. Let's see, stop. I want to make sure I've got 5 cycles. Okay, I'm going to run 5 cycles of the worm gear. You can go as high as 9. This will take about 30 minutes, 40 minutes, 30 minutes to run a new one. So let's record it, refresh, and so we're recording a new PEC curve. And it's capturing 2,395 gear turns, or cog turns. Oh lordy, let's do this. Let's see, we want to go east a little bit, south a little. This hand controller so I can follow this curve. While this curve's being built, I'm going to track in solar mode. Stop it and start all over again. You're looking at the sun live. And I'm building a new periodic error correction curve. It helps to have one. It doesn't solve all of the tracking errors, but it goes a long way to improving them. I can guide for 2 minutes, or I can image for 2 minutes unguided when I have a good pet curve at night. And you can apply the same, you can do a pet curve anytime. You don't really need a target. You can do a pet curve in the middle of the day in your home. And when you're doing a pet curve, you can adjust the amount. That doesn't bother it. It's only picking up the nuances of the worm gear as it turns and making adjustments after it averages out the worm gear behavior. That's the way I understand it, and I am by no means an authority on it. I know how to run it. Don't know that I can necessarily explain it. I'll tell you that QUARK CHROMOSPHERE is a great piece of kit, but the little solar scout, the little 60 millimeter with a QUARK attached to it, it's kind of built in. If it had some inexpensive means by which I could electronically focus it, I'd be happy. You do have to go out. I'm in the house remotely connected to a laptop. I'll show you. This is the observation camera that's outside, mounted on a fence right behind my I think I'll show you. Yeah. And so here's the telescope on the right, that two telescopes, the Scout's riding on top like a guide camera and guide scope, and that's the 1600 ASI 1600 mono camera. That's a deep space camera. It's not a good, well, it is, that's why I'm using it. It doesn't have a good frame rate, but if my mount's behaving good, I don't care. It takes a little longer, but when you do a time lapse, time is part of the capture process, as long as it doesn't take too long and you have rotation that affects your clarity, which it doesn't. Sun does rotate, but, and I'm only taking 200 SER files, and it has such high resolution. That's a gracious plenty. And then underneath is the QUARK CHROMOSPHERE, and that's a 174, also a mono camera, and they're both pro cameras, so they have cooling systems, but you don't use unless you're doing unless you're at night and you're taking long exposures. And the QUARK CHROMOSPHERE, they both have Daystar. When I talked to them about the QUARK before I bought it, I said, is that the same thing as a QUARK CHROMOSPHERE? And they said no, but it is. It looks like it, behaves like it. It's the same size as this one, but this costs less than the QUARK CHROMOSPHERE, this Scout. But what I like about the QUARK CHROMOSPHERE, I can exchange it between other telescopes, and that's what I did not like about buying a solar kit, that the telescope and solar equipment filtering system isn't interchangeable. I didn't want to have that happen to me. I better go over here and babysit this. It's pretty close still. Good. I forget what I'm doing. I need to nudge it. Let's just go one time sidereal. Need to nudge it down a little. And maybe west just a teeny bit. There you go. We have 281 left. I have my fingers crossed that there will be some flaring that will be remarkable between 11 o'clock and 1:30. That's the hope. I do not know why my pet curve is inactive. This is misbehaving on me. What am I doing here? Let's see. Let's kill the whole thing. And I better move my mount very quickly. We've got to go east. Too far. And south. That's good. All right, what have I done nuts here? Let's go back. All right, this is the second time we've started this pet curve. Third time. You know, using this hand controller is what's stopping it. Let me go back and just use this. Okay, now let's check it. Yeah, that's what did it. That's good to know. So I'm capturing a new pet curve, and this ASCOM hand controller that really is nothing but EQ ASCOM is nothing but, I don't know why that wouldn't work. It's above my pay grade. South a tad bit. We can turn off this. You are looking at a live view of our sun. Good night. Look at the camera. But I have bandwidth problem. Fix that. I'll go away. you're just joining, I'm using this sunspot and these crosshairs to manually make corrections to the drift in RA and deck that my mount has. So trying to keep this Autostakkert, but more especially ImPPG aligned in a position where it can align the image. And the more drift there is, the more off-center these images are, the bigger the challenge for both Autostakkert and Autostakkert. Not so much. We're only taking 200 frames. It doesn't move that much, but for sure ImPPG benefits. I did a time lapse of 300. I took 300 yesterday, and I'm roughly looking at just the first steps of the time lapse. I'll show you what I did yesterday. This is it. I don't have a GIF viewer on this little laptop I'm using to do this, but about the only thing that's going on, and this hasn't been colorized, this has been roughly aligned, and it hasn't had linear fit applied. Also, I had to retake the flats today because yesterday I saw where I had some dirt right here and some out here on the rim that didn't get flatted out. So I retook flats. There's some up here too. Bummer. Because there's nothing you can do in a time lapse if you've got dirt on your... but there's some nice filament movement, and not a lot going on around the sunspot, but there is a little action on the rim of the sun. This happens to be the west side of the rim, and this is it's the flaring on this portion on the west side of the sun that causes the most damage to us here in the US. So that was from yesterday. Not all that remarkable, but fun doing it anyway. If I have clear skies, I'm going to be imaging. Ooh, waited too late. I bought a new iMac 2 days ago, and I haven't set it up yet. I have to get my computer guy to add. I got to order new RAM. I got to order more RAM. I like to have 32 gig of RAM. This one has 32 gig. But this operating system is so old on this iMac I'm using that I can't, I'm at Catalina and I can't upgrade. And so Photoshop has some new features, and PixInsight has some new scripts that require that I have a newer Mac. So I've been backed into buying another one. I hate that. And I have no idea when I'm going to find the time to set it up. But what I'm going to do is run both of these Macs at the same time and use this monitor. I guess. I don't know what I'm doing. something to drink. Good coffee. Okay. Huh. Try another camera. Nothing like the old. That ain't gonna work. Figure this out. See how our curve's going. I don't get it. Oh. We're capturing. We're good. I don't know if I actually need a curve now. It's I haven't made any corrections to it, and it's behaving. We've taken 44 images with the Solar Scout, and we have 2:56 to go. Let's go look at the sun. And let's get rid of that, get a more updated. This is 2 minutes old. This has a better image. Let's check out a video of this. Let's slow it down. I got cloud problems. Let's pick another. Let's try, that was 2 minutes old. This is also 2 minutes old. This doesn't have as good detail on the sun. They got cloud problems too. It's slow. Not very helpful, which is usually not the case. Uh-oh. Scene conditions are not looking real good right now. I can see the sun moving around. Doo-doo. Doo-doo-doo-doo. I want to check my histogram. The sun as soon as it stops, or as soon as it starts capturing, I want to activate the big histogram and see what percentage. Okay, we are at 85%. Okay, I want to keep it at that. 86. It's getting brighter. I want to keep it at that. So I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to drop this down to just 12 and keep it on 85. Not only do I have to track you make corrections for tracking, it really helps when you're doing a time lapse to just focus on whatever illumination you pick to your liking. It doesn't matter if you want it brighter. If you want it brighter, good. If you want it darker, that's okay, but keep it at the same value so that you don't have brighter, dimmer images in the time lapse. That just adds that nauseating flicker. And I can fix that in PixInsight by running a batch linear fit. It doesn't always work because what it sometimes does, you have to pick the right reference image to get it to work right, but what it sometimes does, and it's making an adjustment, is it changes the background. It makes the subject, the target, have the same levels of luminosity, but the background gets funky at times. Orange, not orange, you know, and once you've colorized it, so I don't know. I just find it's so much easier if you're going to take a time lapse, if you're going to have to be here anyway, making corrections like I have to be because I don't have a high precision mount. It just makes sense for me to keep my exposure. It's getting ready to go up to 86, so I'm going to change this to 11.9, and it'll continue to do this as the sun rises over the rooftops and gets higher in the sky. It will continue to get brighter. I'm at 86 now, and I already changed this. I have to go down to, say, am I capturing now? 7. Oh, too far. We want to go to 8. We're going to have to go back to 9. All right, we're back to 85. And we're about ready to, I'm going to make a correction here. Okay, we're ready to capture. So, this is our sun, live view. That the reference marks just happen to be right where this sunspot is. That's nice, although you can move your reference marks. You can't move the sunspot, but you can set your crosshairs anywhere you want. But I'm monitoring two things. I'm monitoring the sun spot and the mounts tracking errors, and I'm having to correct those. Actually, I'm going to make a correction as soon as this capture finishes because I've moved west and I need to correct east a little bit, and I need to correct south a little bit. And let's check our, okay, we're at 13, we're about halfway through, we're a little over halfway through getting our pet curve, and that will help. That will help. That will help. And you can see the graphing of the pet curve right now, and then once it's completed, you'll see the nuances of the pet curve. It really isn't done. What I need to do is then take this pet curve and smooth it out using PimPro. That's what I need to do. Probably won't. Because I redo the pet curve all the time. As long as you don't move your mount, we're going back and forth from 86 to 85 down here. Now we're at 86. I'm going to try going to 11.8. All right, now we're at 85. You want to do that too when you're not capturing. Although I don't know if it really makes that big of a difference. But it makes sense to me to make your adjustments during the intervals between captures. And I've also found in doing a time lapse, make your interval at least 25 seconds. A minute is good too. That gives you plenty of time to make your adjustments. But you can, as long as your time lapse is over, or I'm speaking for me, I don't know how it works for you, but as long as my time lapse is, say, if I'm taking it over a 2 or 3 hour period, and whether I have 120 images or 220 images, the time lapse is not going to be that much different, I found out. Um, so, but the file sizes that you have and the storage you're going to need for 220 image might be double. So don't be afraid of the long intervals. Um, yes, if you could take one for 3 hours, a 3 hour time lapse, and have a 10-second interval, it would be superior to taking a 3 hour time lapse only having 150 images. It would be better, and you would notice it. At the same time, uh, you're going to have this massive need for more storage, and the processing time is going to take at least twice as long to run Autostakkert. Uh-oh, just lost my connection again. To run Autostakkert and to run ImPPG, and then even run it. Looks like I'm laying down. I am. You have to get comfortable for this. I'm leaning as far back as this. All right, we're back. Let's if you've noticed that your GPS, if you're in the northern latitudes, say 34 degrees north, and you're experiencing GPS issues with your car, thanks to the sun's solar maximum period and the daily flaring, most of them are not direct hits, but we have been hit. We've had some direct hits, and we've also had some close calls, but the folks in the northern latitudes are being treated to good auroras. The Aurora Borealis has been performing shows during those high flare periods, but also the pilots in the upper latitudes experience communication, and your ham operators, they have to struggle with solar maximum periods. But your Wi-Fi also takes a hit. I rarely ever lose connection to the mount, ever. And last night I was imaging, I think it's NGC, I forgot what it was. It's the Bubble Nebula, and 7635, something like that. I don't forget what it is. But I was imaging that, and I lost, I was going to go live, but I was losing connection every 3 or 4 minutes. And I thought, well, that ain't going to work. But that was my plan, to image live. I'm going to try imaging live tonight. And I'm going to go back and work on the bubble. I got 6 hours of the bubble using the L Extreme on an ASI 533 color camera. And I want to get another 6 hours tonight. I do have clear skies, so I'll have lots of data. I'm using an Edge 8-inch HD with a 0.70 Celestron reducer, and I'm at 88. Oh crap. Let's go down to, see, are we capturing? Yeah, let's go down when this finishes to about 6. I boo-booed on this. Even at 6, we're still hot. Let's go to 4. Right, we're back to 85. You gotta pay attention, Ed. You gotta pay attention. It's almost already too late. I'm gonna have to run linear fit. let's check our pet curve out. And we've got a little ways to go yet to get worm cycles in. I'm doing 5 worm cycles. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. As soon as this starts capturing, I'm going to zoom in on the sun. That'll make it a little easier to keep the sunspot centered. And so let's go in about 125%, and there it is. It's tracking pretty good right now. I'm awful tempted just to leave the pet curve out of it. I'm going to nudge it a little east. A little more, maybe too much. No, that works. We're at 86. I'm going to take this down to 83. I'm trying to keep it on 85. I'm looking at this graphic at the bottom, 85% luminosity. That's just my choice for this, and using the Solar Scout. Let's come back over. Okay. And if you're just joining, I'm running a new periodic error correction curve, and I'm getting close. We've got 2,000 steps in. We have 2395 to go. I mean, not 2395. We have about 190 to go. We've taken 73 and 73 images. Forgot when I started. Hour and 10 or 15 minutes ago. And we're going to have to nudge this east a little, get it back in the center. I'm using this sunspot as my guide star, so to speak. And these crosshairs, I just try to keep these crosshairs right in the middle. That will help solve the alignment issues. I'm going back to 86. You can see the sun's just getting brighter. And so we're going to go down to 2. And we'll take us back to 85. When I started imaging, the scene was not as good. Part of the reason is that I was so low in the sky and I was imaging over my rooftop, reflecting heat from the roof back. It's hot out. It's going to get hotter. But now that I've gotten higher in the sky, the sun does get brighter. And then you have other issues too. Sometimes thin layers of clouds that you really can't see that well can mess up your exposure. They're there, you just can't. They're between the camera and the sun. You just can't really see them. But I'm zoomed in pretty well, and the sun is reasonably calm right now, considering. So I'm pretty stoked about. I'm gonna have to move this north a little bit. Hadn't had to do that at all. I've had some southern drift. Alignment's been pretty good, so I'm mostly making my adjustments east and west and right ascension. Mostly. If it looks like I'm laying down, I'm close to it. I'm stretched out in my office chair. Got to get comfortable to do this. Let's check our okay, we're about ready to finish. We'll just stay with it until it finishes, and we'll have a new curve. It'll pop up here when it's done. We're at 2349. We're going to 2395 clicks of the worm gear. Now, so far, I've just made a pet curve for EQ-ASCOM, but I'm getting ready to write this to the mount. Okay, there's my curve. And so it's going to follow that path, making corrections. And if you zoomed in on this, you would see a lot of little ups and downs on this curve. And I need to smooth those out. I can smooth them out using EQ-ASCOM, but I like to import this into PimPro. So I'm going to save this, and I'm going to call this solar, no, I'm going to give it a date, 8, 2023, and peck, and then I'm going to I already recorded it, so I'm going to enable it. I already recorded it too. I did that as I was going along, so it's been recorded to the mount, and I'm now running periodic error correction. And I'm going to need to move south. What's capturing? Crap. Now move south a little bit. And hopefully I won't have to make as many adjustments. One of the things I love about using EQ mode is the really on the fly ability to create a new pet curve if you need it. Ooh, we're at 88. Tag on it. I hate to. It's hard to see. We were 88. Let's try 7. Sorry, I forgot where I was. Okay, we made a boo-boo. So I'm going to cancel. We're at 216. I'm going to cancel. I screwed that up. I'm 83, so let's go to 0.9. Let's go back to 0.8. All right, we're at 85. I've got to go delete that last capture. The settings. Okay, let's go back and start up again. And we're at 216 now. I deleted one, so we're at 217. I'm gonna have to. We're already at 86. Bring this down to 7. This is done. Bring it down to 6. It has dropped 2 milliseconds because I was at 12.6 when I woke up and started paying attention. I know I took about 20 or 30 images before I started adjusting for exposure, so I'm going to have to run linear fit. Or in Lightroom, you can go to the develop mode in Lightroom. You can import these into Lightroom in the develop mode and go up to, I think it's view, and go down and select match total exposures. I'm not absolutely sure if it's view or not. I'd have to look at it, but you can use match, pick your reference frame and then match the rest of the total exposures to that. That works. Does not work as well as Pix Insights linear fit, but it works. What I like about Lightroom though, you can quickly reset it all over again and then try another reference frame. Run it again. Don't like it? Reset, sync them all at the same time, do it again. Until you get what you like. Pix Insight takes a lot longer to run linear fit. And once you've done it, you've done it. So, got to do it right the first time. I'm not so sure I'm getting better results with the new pet curve or not. I want to make sure it's active. Yep, it says down here you're tracking at sidereal plus PEC. So, and I know I have a solar. Rate that I could be using, but it's just as well to use sidereal with the PEC curve. It's just that you are going to have to adjust for the solar difference between sidereal and solar. In right ascension, I do. You will too. And I have found that using EQ-ASCOM, if I chose the solar mode, and we'll do that, and we can do that, and I'll show you. We'll actually get rid of the PEC curve when we do it. So we're going to pick solar, which is down here. So it shows our tracking rate is solar, and we're not running the PEC curve now. Oh, we're going to do this and disable it. So let's go back. So they're running solar. And more often than not, it doesn't perform as well for me as running sidereal rate with a PEC curve. Let's give it a chance. I stopped using it a long time ago, and I don't even fool with it most of the time. I'm at 86, so let's get this down to 10.5 milliseconds. And we're back to 85. So when I'm doing a time lapse, I try to keep the exposure for the Solar Scout around 85%. Whatever level of luminosity you choose, I just say it's important to babysit it and keep it the same, making adjustments to your exposure as you go. And then I have to because I've got a I feel like it's a higher end consumer mount. It's the Skywatcher HEQ6 Pro, but it's not perfect. It's actually the one made by Atlas, made by Orion, the EQAC Orion. It's Orion used the Skywatcher, buys the Skywatcher mounts, and they're black instead of white. Same mount. Well, the solar is about the same as the sidereal. It might even be a little better. See something. I don't know why I couldn't run PEC, and I wonder if I enable and refresh. if I'm not running. It makes no difference what tracking speed you use to your PEC curve, but it just says PEC is inactive, so it's not working. You have to have sidereal. Wish they'd fix that so I could run the curve, and then with solar it might, I don't know, talking to myself. Okay, we're going to take this down to 4. We're at 86. Okay, let's go back out and look at the full disk. I'm tired of this view. We've taken 97 and we have 203 to go. Happy, happy. Happy, happy. It's 12 o'clock. Eastern Standard Time, and I have an roughly an hour and a half left before the sun crosses the meridian. And I'm going to stop there and stop then. I'm going to go back and zoom in. Let's go to 125%. Maybe not too late. Okay, we're at 86. When it finishes capturing, I'm going to adjust the mount and take this down to 10, 3, and we're back at 85. I'm looking down here at the bottom on my luminosity scale from the blacks to the whites lights. I'm 85%. It's a pretty decent dynamic range. It gives you plenty to work with when you start using curves. Okay, what let's do, let's bring up Autostakkert and let's open one of these captures. Let's just pick the first one, and I'm just going to analyze. I know I'm not going to save any more than, say, 30%, regardless of what the graph looks like. We'll go back and let it do its thing. That still looks good. It's a slow laptop outside. An old laptop. And let's run 200 data points, place a grid. I can check my 200. That only means that because this is a high resolution image, it's a large image, I'm going to have my reference boxes are going to be 200 pixels by 200 pixels. And all that means. So we're going to stack 30%. I could probably select 104, but yeah. Let's check my box while it's still thinking. And head back out here. Wow, what's going on? Oh, there it goes. So let's save this and we'll see what we got. It ain't gonna be much, but we'll look at it anyway. Probably should have focused on the other kit and taking that flare along with that sunspot. I may do that after lunch. I got work to do, but uh-oh, we're at 86. Tell it's getting brighter. Let's go down to 2, and we're back to 85. Take it on down to 81 because we're bumping. Yeah. There it goes. And we'll take a look at the entire disk. I think our exposure is okay for a few minutes. So we'll just doing a birdie. I hope this shows up in the time lapse, and I hope we have some flaring on the rim, on the limb of the sun, over here on the west side. We've got some spots that are on the far side that should be some real active flare throwers. When they went around the first time, and I understand they're still active, but I think the solar telescope, the SDO, isn't in a position because of the orbit to tell what the far side's doing right now. What I understand from Dr. Tamitha Skov, if you don't pay attention and watch her, if you like solar imaging and you're not on Tamitha Skov's YouTube channel, I highly recommend it. Her last name is S-K-O-V, Tamitha, T-A-M-I-T-H-A. And she is a good one. I see, I'll out there, let's go to I played the banjo, try to, and let's go down, Dr. Scoff. If you're not watching, she explains it in words that I can understand it. So I highly recommend you going to her channel and subscribing, because she tells us what's going to happen, and it's where I get all my information. So, yay, space weather woman. I'll put a link to her YouTube channel. Need to write a note to myself. Don't forget a link to Tamitha Skov, Space Weather Woman's. But she gives updates. I join her Patreon group because I get the early releases of solar activity, and I try to image the sun every time I have clear skies and can. Being retired, I have the ability to do that. And I image the night sky every time, deep space every time I have a chance. And that's when there aren't clouds or the threat of rain. Better check our histogram when we start capturing, because I think it's gotten a little brighter, and yep, we're at 86, so let's drop this down to 10 even, 10 milliseconds. And we're back at 85. Actually, I'm going to make this 9:9. Because we're getting towards it. All right. I'm sure Autostakkert is still working. This is a slow laptop. Now it's finished. Okay, let's close this out. And I'm going to bring up ImPPG. And we're going to load this image. I hope. And these two, you can go up here to, you can use your zoom in and zoom out if you want. You can go up to edit and select and process all, or you can fit image to window using this, and you can select your process all by using those two boxes. It's just whatever you're in the habit, whatever works for you. And the first thing I want to do is to fix a curve that will help reveal what's going on in the rim. And I'm sensitive to the fact that the tilt that I have on this between the camera and the QUARK chromosphere is creating a sharper edge here than it is over here, so I need to play around with that and improve that. But the more I move this out, the more I lose my rim activity. And here comes the contrast I'm looking for. Alright, let's add some convolution, deconvolution, not convolution. I'm going to go down to about 4,000. And I'm going to sharpen it some. I don't always use, I usually sharpen in PixInsight, but this is to see what I got, so I'm going to run it up. And so far, not so good. I'm moving windows around you guys can't see, so there we go. I still have that mess on the rim, so the rim isn't showing too much. I need to play around with it, but better get back outside and see where my drift is. Drifted west, so let's move it east. And we also have gotten brighter. I already know we have, so I'm going to go to 8.9 and let's bring up histogram. We're at 88. Oh boys, we got to go down to, let's say, 7. That's not enough. 62. Not enough. 60. Oh wow. How did exposure change that much? Great day. It did though, didn't it? Alright, we're back at 85. So those images around 199, 100, or 175 images left, so images number 124 and 23 and 22 are going to be too bright, I'm guessing. A couple of them will be. While I was off playing, it's already gone down. The sun does get brighter. We started at 12.6 milliseconds and we're down to 9.5 milliseconds, trying to keep the sun the dynamic range at 85% of luminosity. So we have no clipping in the darks, we have no clipping in the whites, and I like to keep it below 90, because if there is some flaring that shows up in one of these images that's brighter, it might clip if I run the exposure too far towards the high side over here. If I push it up against the right side of the histogram by raising the exposure, then any brightness that shows up will be obscured in the brightness in the rest of the image. It won't be as contrasty. So 85 is at gracious plenty. We already hit 86 again, so I'm going to bring this down to 49. Wowzer, guys. We can go 47. Okay, it's dropping. And I think we can leave there for a minute, and as soon as we start capturing, I'll show the full disk and get rid of the histogram. So you're looking at a live view of our sun. Taken with the QUARK chromosphere. It's already getting brighter, I can tell. I'll have to well, I'm going to bring it down to 6 because it's pushing 86. Airplane. We're at 85. A lot of babysitting. We're still at 86. My goodness. And it will go the other way. At about 2 o'clock, if you're imaging in the afternoon, then you're going to have to increase your exposure because the sun is at its brightest when it is closer to transit, and then it starts dimming down again. How do I know? Because I watch it happen. I guess that could be a science project for an 8th grader. Does the sun get brighter towards culmination? Yes. Happy, happy. I'll have to tell my son and my granddaughter who has a science project. I'll let her make a video and people can see for themselves. back to 86%. Okay, so let's go to 1. Wow. Go to 40. And we're going down to 38. 38 and dropping. You are looking at a live view of our star. I wish SharpCap had a way to give me the value of my luminosity without me having to run this graph, which takes up too much real estate. Man, it's really dropping, guys. We're at, now we're finally at 85. We're at 9.25. We've gone from 12.6 to 9.25 in an hour and 15 minutes. So the sun has increased in luminosity according to SharpCap and my camera a little over 3 milliseconds in an hour and a half. I can't leave it alone now. I'm just going to have to keep it up because it's dropping. It's just drop. I'm having to drop the exposure every minute. It's nuts. And the reason, if you're just joining, why I continue to adjust the exposure so that I run a luminosity level of 85%. It's my choice to run it at 85% because it's the level of luminosity. You saw an image. It's bright enough. Here's the first image that I took. I went ahead and did a rough processing. So it doesn't need to be any brighter than that, but if I have some flares, I want to make sure they show up, and I don't want them to be clipped. And that's the long and the short of it. So I have to adjust the exposure, and as the sun gets brighter, as it gets towards transit, I have to adjust the exposure. Take shorter exposures, and so it's been coming down from 12.6 milliseconds in the last hour and 20 minutes or so to 9.12 milliseconds. We've taken 140 images during this time, and I'm not going to get 160 in the next hour, but I'll get probably 55 or 60. So we'll have 200. We'll have around 200 images. I'm going to put the brakes on. We're already at 86%, so I have to adjust this down to I have learned so much about time lapses since I started doing this. I'm just going to go down to flat 9 seconds. So 3.6 milliseconds difference. Isn't that nuts? You gotta have patience to do one of these things because you can't leave it. And if you're bored stiff, you're laid up in the hospital, you've got nothing else to do, that's the only people that are going to sit and watch this. But if you don't want to watch politics on television, I hope this isn't the next best thing, but I hope it's better than watching politics on the tube. It'd drive you nuts. Grown people behaving like kids. Democrats, Republicans, wokesters, radical rightsters. He's the problem, you're the problem. Progressives, liberals, conservatives. We've always had them. Too many places for people to voice their opinion now, and that's accessible by everybody. We've always had protests in my lifetime. I don't think we've had news that's been so how can I say this? I can't trust the news, any news. NBC, CBS, ABC, Fox, newscast. Because they're all purposeful and have an agenda. Okay, enough politics. I hate it. This is star time. All right, we're getting down in the 8s. 8.5. That's a woohoo! I messed that one up. 8.59. I messed up that image. Let's go back to 8.62. Okay, 92. Okay. All right. Let's see. We're at 155. I gotta stop. I gotta delete the last two. This one that's partially incomplete, and that one that got beat up with my failure to pay attention. Okay, so we're at 157. Is that right? It's as good as anything. No, yeah, 157. I don't know what we're at. Let me, let's see. We're at 300, 150. Yeah, that's about right. Like 151 is where we're at. I'm not going to get 300 anyway. Doesn't matter. May get 200. Before I put the brakes on. I'll tell you what. I have 150. I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna go over to the other camera. No, I'm not. I'll stay here. Actually, I am. After this is done, it's actually, I'm going to stop right here. I don't think I'm going to see much. I don't think there's going to be much activity to see on this time lapse, so I'm going to change cameras and I'm going to knock off a few images. Let me get rid of this histogram. Let me bring the exposure down. By the way, I've been shooting at a gain of 0. And loving it. Let's go. Let's change our speed here. Wrong way. This is actually where I'm going to want to image to. So let's get this histogram acting up. Are we out of focus or what? Alright, how do we want to do this? Let's see. Let's try going out. Let's build some contrast in here. Go up to this spot. Let's use that as a reference. Let's overexpose and see if we still have that flare. Yeah, there it is. Okay, where is our histogram? Oh, way too low. Let's bring it up. Still too low. Bring it up. That's the frame rate here is going to be like 27, 28 frames per second. Still too low. Bring it up. That's where I want it. Okay, let's move these. Let's bring it right there. Let's bring this to where the histogram starts, and okay, let's see if we can't improve our focus a little bit. Let's zoom in about 100%. Zoom in about 250%. Let's go out. That. Let's go in. I'm going to leave it right there. I'm going to move west just a little bit. Let's change this to 1. Let's move west just a tad. And let's set up a time lapse. And we're going to call this just sun. Let's try to get 100 in, and we let's do 500 with this camera, and let's start it. We don't need to be at 200, and pay no attention about this clipping over here. It won't be clipped in the image. It's just the histogram has been adjusted for contrast, and that's all. Let's move east a little. So I'm gonna, for the next 45 minutes, I'm going to take a series of 500 frame SER files, video files, save about 15 or 20% of those, and since we've taken one, let's see what it's going to look like. Let's bring up Autostakkert. Let's open up, that's the time lapse we did this morning. Sun time lapse. Take the first one, and let's put analyze. Better make sure. See where my exposure is. In 1 second. $75. I'm going to leave it there. I'll know more if I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to run. Let's go back to Autostakkert, and it says that I have, let's just keep 30%. Let me place 104 pixel by pixel reference boxes. Actually, let's go 48 on this short, smaller region of interest, and let's do 30 is fine. Actually, if you look at this quality graph where this green line intersects, each one of these lines graphed represents one of the frames, one of the 500 frames, and this is the top 25%. So the top 25% cross over right here. So that's about 12 or 13% of my images are above, are in the top 25%. This is the 50% line, and it looks like close to 70%, 65 to 70% of my images are in the upper 50% quality-wise. That didn't mean a whole lot. I'm still going to pick 30%, and I'm going to stack them. I better get out here and pay attention to my, okay, luminosity has stayed the same, and everything's working. So capturing, I want to get rid of that. Didn't do it in time. Okay, we're about to finish. All right, done. Let's go see what this one looks like. Bring up ImPPG. That's what the scout looked like. Let's open up We need to go. Okay, we're going to reset everything. Reset, reset. We don't want the scout settings. And I'm going to fit this to the box. And I'm going to do everything all at once. So I want to put an anchor point. Let's see, about there. Drag this up. And I may want to raise the luminosity. Let's put an anchor point about there, and let's bring this up. All right. So let's see what a little deconvolution can do for the flare. Let's go to 2.4. And let's raise, just to see what we've got here, to 1.4, 1.4 here to that neighborhood. And so, and hopefully, I better get back out and see how much drift I got. But hopefully, maybe we can get a little bit, no drift. And we're still at 74, 75%. So everything's good. Got 90 images to go. Actually, I'm going to change this to 37. It's not a good idea, I don't think, for me to do that during a capture. And I can tell it's capturing down here. When I have the green line up here, then it's safe to make your changes. I have 20 seconds to do it, 25 seconds to do it in. So this is what I'm imaging in a time lapse, and this is what it's going to end up hopefully looking like, with lots of stuff going on here. This needs to be worked on. This isn't a little blown out down here. This curve needs to be worked on, but I got a rough idea of what I'm going to be looking at here. This ain't going to work. I'll bet you this is dust right here. And if it is, I don't know if that's a sunspot or dirt on my sensor. Same thing right here. If it is in a time lapse, this thing will just flicker all over the place. Hope not. Let's go back out and look at the nudges west or east a little bit. It's drifting west. Again, good idea. That was a bad practice not to do it during capture. Okay, I'm going to down here and watch this histogram. It looks like I'm not in focus, and I may not be, but I know I'm dealing with some seeing conditions that have not improved. They've gotten worse. As sure as I say that, things look pretty sharp there, but it's coming and going. This has been doing this since I don't know how long I've been doing this. About I started around 10:30, running flats for the Scout and for this. Yeah, it looks like this is it looks like this isn't dirt. It's all moving around with yeah, good. I was afraid that my flats didn't catch that, but if this was dirt, this would be stationary, but it's moving with the sun, so good. I'm using this sunspot as a reference. I'm trying to center these crosshairs, keep them centered in the center of the sunspot, which will minimize the amount of cropping that Autostakkert will have in stacking, and align ImPPG will have when it tries to align these. And the least cropping I can have, the better. Looking at the sun live. Alive. if you haven't noticed, I'm shooting at a zero gain. I started doing that. When I take my flats, I set the gain to 0, and it's recommended that you do that if you're using sharp cap for your flats, and so I do. I forgot to change it, and so I started imaging the sun at a 0 gain, and I had the exposure set. I just wasn't paying attention, so I thought, well, I'm gonna go ahead, and once I started doing, had a couple images in the bank, well, I'm just gonna go ahead and see what that looks like. I'm only taking 500 frames, so it doesn't take that long at 30 frames per second to do that. So that's what I did, and that's what I'm doing, and the images are so much better to work with. So now I am a 0 gain for both the ASI 1600 and for the QUARK CHROMOSPHERE and the ASI 174. 0 gaining it out. I'm using a much smaller region of interest because really there isn't a whole lot going on with imaging other than I found this sunspot and there's a monster solar flare and some spiculas that are acting up on this part of the solar limb. So I took an image earlier when I first had one, and where is it? It's right here. And so I did a rough processing on it to see what I got, and that's what I got. I was afraid this was dust and this was dust, but it's not. There's actually too much sharpening in this image. I'm going to drop this down. I'm just going to reset it. Bring it up a little bit. The sharpening goes a long way. I'd rather sharpen in PixInsight. So I hope to have 70, 80, 90, 100 of those and see what that turns out to be. I already have 150 time-lapse images taken with the Solar Scout earlier this morning, and I'll see what that turns out to be. So and I did a time lapse yesterday on this area, and it didn't do very well. I took 300 SCR files, and I think they were, I don't remember, 500 frames too, I think. I don't remember, but I'll show you. This is that time lapse. The reason why I thought I had dust is there's some dust right there and it doesn't work too well, but there's some nice activity over here on going on. But this time lapse was roughly done. The alignment turned out okay, but it needs to go. It hasn't been into PixInsight yet, and it needs to go into PixInsight to remove some of this inconsistency in the skylight, and that's what I'm getting ready to do. And I better head outside before to the other switching computers. Can't think. Wonder what my luminosity looks like right now. Gonna have to lower it down to about 36. That's good. And I'm gonna have to, got some east drift, and I have a little drift in declination north. Sure looks out of focus. We're going to process another one, and we processed the first one. Let's that's what I wanted. Let's process the last one we did. Oh, I know it's in use, I'm sorry. Let's process this one. And let's go. Let's pick right there. And analyze. And let's stack 30%. Let's do 40. And stack. Make sure I haven't drifted too far. Make a correction. Okay, it's done with Autostakkert, and bring up ImPPG. We'll just leave the same settings, and let's open up the second image, which will be this one, or will it be? Let's see. That's the right. All right. Let's bring up this one. I think I just did the same one twice. Right now, let's bring up this one. I can't tell. Anyway, we'll find out. Go back outside, babysit this thing. Sun's moving around a lot, so the scene is not as good now as it was earlier. I had some really good scene at times, and then I had some. That's the way it is. Interesting enough, this morning when I first started, the scene was really good, and I was shooting right over my roof. I don't have an explanation for that, because the sun was fairly hot. I was really right over the roof. The sun comes right up over my house. So, usually the heat off of my house bouncing up everywhere else. house. Makes early morning imaging the sun kind of a pain, but this morning I don't know why it was so good when it first started. Then it got bad. Well, I've got 15. I'm going to image for another 20 minutes and get as many as I can. And the sun will hit culmination and transit, and everything's flipped. Right becomes left, left becomes right. What I like about EQ mode, I can just, deck's the same, deck doesn't change, but RA does. I can just select up here, reverse RA, and then I can use the same. You get in the habit of what moves your reticle or your sun using these east and west and north and south controls. And then when you flip it, north and south stays the same, but east and west flip. So this lets you reverse it. So nothing really changes for the mind that has remembered how to do this. But as far as online is concerned, I think I'm going to sign off right now. If you stopped by and watched, I hope you enjoyed it. And hope everybody a great rest of your weekend. And I'll catch you the next time.